Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video. And in today's video, I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Keyshawn Davis versus Nahir Albright rematch. And so, if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do indeed like the video, and feel free to join the Patreon as well. You can request any kind of combat sporting related content, and I'll try my best to get out there for you guys. I appreciate all the support which I've had with it so far, and let's get straight into this one. And this is Top Rank's now venture into working with DAZN. They have a seemingly bit of a different deal with DAZN compared to some of the other top broadcasters. They only are doing a few shows with DAZN, I think, and they're venturing with other of their fighters going to other promoters as well. It's a little bit of a weird deal, but nonetheless, like I say, at least they're on a bigger platform than what they once were, and well, not ESPN, but kind of in that in-between phase, which was a bit like them in no man's land. At least now they've got a place where they can put on shows, and of course DAZN is the most active place for them to do it, and it will be interesting to see how this event goes viewership wise, because I mean, I don't think that Top Rank anymore is a major household boxing name. They have people like PBC, even the Ring Magazine putting on their shows. You've got Matchroom, you've got Queensbury. They're the main, I mean, Golden Boy even as well. They're the main promoters around at the moment. I feel like Top Rank have kind of let themselves slide off a bit. And, I mean, a show like this isn't amazing. It's not really a show in which you'd be really that excited to put in your first show with a new promoter. But, I mean, it's alright. I mean, again, Davis versus Albright, it's a rematch of a fight in which technically was a no contest, so you would want to see a rematch, but I did have the first fight pretty one-sided in Davis's favour, and Davis has gone on to win multiple fights since then, and Albright hasn't, lost. He had that win against Kelvin Davis, and then also the draw against Frank Martin, but again, possibly a bit of a step down when you're trying to get Keyshawn Davis fighting for world titles. You wouldn't really say that Albright is somebody who is going to help boost him along to get a world title. And you wouldn't also say that Nahir Albright is anywhere near getting a title shot himself. So again, it's a bit of a weird one, but that's what they're putting on for their first show. Obviously, they've got a few of their fighters like Sander Zayas and Mason fighting on shows, which I think the Top Rank show is actually with Mason, but they're working with Matchroom on their Mason Cordina fight and the Zayas Ennis fight, so they're not doing that by themselves. So strictly just for a Top Rank show, it's not really the best. Again, they've got Brian Norman Jr. on the undercard, which is good. I mean, 2 former world champions on it, but again, it's just the matchmaking in which they've been put with isn't amazing. I am also curious as to see what route they go down for Keyshawn Davis to get a world title shot now. There definitely could be a route for them to go down the IBF, which I think could be next, because the IBF is now vacant through Richardson Hitchens joining Zuffa Boxing. So there for sure could definitely be a route for them to take Keyshawn Davis down to maybe fight a Delgado or Duarte or something like that to get a title shot. And so again, he has to get through this fight, which again is a bit of a random one. They could have definitely just put it straight for a world title fight between Davis and like a Duarte, but instead we've got this, and of course he has to get this before he can start thinking about world titles. I do feel like Top Rank was kind of expecting Albright to not be good enough as an option for Keyshawn Davis to fight years later, but he has actually done very well for himself. I mean, obviously he beat Kelvin Davis, which was obviously what stirred up a lot of controversy after that one, and then he drew with Frank Martin as well. Only a couple of months ago that was actually. He had a bit of a timeout after the Keyshawn fight. I think he had 2 years out, or just under 2 years out, before fighting Kelvin, and to see him come back, he won that Kelvin fight well, and then to see him draw against Frank Martin, who was on a decent run. Obviously, he'd lost to Gervonta Davis, but he'd come back and bounced back well with a KO win, so he's clearly, like I say, shown that he is good enough to fight at a decent level. At a world level, I'm not too sure just yet, but at a pretty decent level nonetheless, it definitely is the case. And you can, build the narrative of there's unfinished business and that there's controversy and things like that, and that will make people excited. But again, it just still is a bit of a random fight. Obviously, there was the controversy around the first fight with Davis testing positive for marijuana and causing the fight to go to a no contest after what was a majority decision beforehand. Again, I didn't have it as a majority decision. I did have Keyshawn Davis winning, but nonetheless, the judges scored it a majority decision. And then obviously, Davis kind of pulled up on Nahir Albright after he beat Kelvin. And this was right after Keyshawn Davis just got stripped of his WBO title. It just really wasn't a good week, that for Keyshawn Davis. And I mean, after getting pulled up on for no real reason, he did just win the fight. I would kind of like to hope that Nahir Albright wins this one just to get his kind of own back on Keyshawn Davis, because what he did pulling up on him and stuff like that and trying to headbutt him, that just isn't right. So again, if it was justified and if karma came back around, he would lose this one, Keyshawn Davis. But again, I don't know about that. There is also the fact of the kind of mutual opponent in which both of these guys have, which is Jermaine Ortiz, and obviously Keyshawn last time out knocked out Jermaine Ortiz and was the first person to knock him out, which was a good win for Keyshawn Davis. But Jermaine Ortiz beat Nahir Albright a few years ago. So again, as a mutual opponent, you can see that Nahir Albright has already lost to somebody in which Davis has won via TKO against. To speak about both fighters skill-wise individually, Davis as a fighter, he's got obviously very fast hands. He's pretty sharp. He works off different angles well. I like how he can work off different angles from being in the pocket, but also being at a distance. He can throw different straight shots from different angles in which you see him use, which is nice. He mixes up the distance of his punches. I do like his kind of step in. I think it's a left that he steps in with. That's nice as well. He can fight in close or at a mid-range. He can pretty much control a fight for the majority of it, which again, he hasn't really had to deal with somebody who is going to try and control the fight against him. But I mean, he has been able to control most fights in which he has been in, especially recently. He's got good movement. He can get out of bad spots. He's got kind of a punishing type of mentality where if you do keep making mistakes, he will punish you. He chops away really nicely to the body. Again, the short shots really hurt Barincic when they were fighting. He's comfortable throwing multiple punches without really much effort, I suppose is the one way of putting it. He can throw 2 punches, but he doesn't really put too much effort into throwing them 2 punches. It looks very comfortable but also very quick at the same time, so it still catches you out. He holds his shape well, and I think his power's evolved to an extent. I mean, not just coming into the super lightweight division, but I think in general, I think he has just got that bit more of a snap in his punches, especially from when they first fought 3 years ago. I think his power has evolved and he has looked bigger and stronger since then, and what he's throwing does seem to have more intent behind it. Negatives about him, he can get timed, or he can struggle to get his timing down when opponents are coming in with singles. In the first fight, you could see Albright kind of coming in early with just singular jabs and things like that, and that was working for Albright, and Davis was kind of struggling to counter him because he was pulling himself right back out Albright. He does leave an open guard. Again, he does get caught with shots. He is definitely willing to take some shots to then, put his shots in himself. Again, he does have quite an open guard. There was times in which Albright was catching him. He's not always actually the most accurate. I think his accuracy has improved, but again, if you go back to that first fight with Albright, he did seem to struggle to get his accuracy fully down. He can be overconfident. He can definitely lose focus in the fight. I don't think he's always the most disciplined of fighters. I think he's not really the most physical of fighters either. He sometimes allows kind of shots to go through what is a weak guard, like I've mentioned, but when it is going through, it is also pinging his head up at times as well, which again can make it more obvious, and again it looks worse than maybe even what it is. Albright, as a fighter, he picks his shots well. He pairs up his body shots pretty nicely. He doesn't get discouraged, and he does put pretty much all into his fights. Again, later on into the fight against Davis, he was kind of hurting Davis a bit, and he was just kind of putting everything on it, especially in that 10th round. He can close the distance quickly after getting his work off, so he'll throw and then he'll really just shut down the distance and close it and just clinch straight away, even if he is at a mid-range distance, meaning that you can't come back with your own work, if that makes sense. And he was doing that to I think Frank Martin a bit. He holds his ground pretty well for the most part. He's willing to trade, and if does, he will commit to bigger punches. Will it mean that he's winning the trades? Not always necessarily, but he is committing to the bigger shots in the trades. He will also use straights nicely as well. Again, his straight shots are pretty good as well. He was using them well against Kelvin Davis when he was just, like I say, using the straights to have success, because Kelvin was trying to keep that distance a bit more but was already hurt. Negatives about him, I think he has got very messy footwork. He's walking into range and it looks very messy, and he can definitely get caught coming in. There was times in which Martin was catching him coming in. He can be outworked. There was times in which Keyshawn was outworking him in the first fight. He can stay in range too long. He can't always get his timing down. He can be uncomfortable throwing when he has his hands high. If you hurt him, he puts his hands high and he'll try and walk forwards, but it just then looks very uncomfortable, and he doesn't always look like he can throw whilst having his hands high. He's very reckless, I think, especially, again, like I say, with his footwork, it looks very reckless and messy, and I think he does force the fight, especially if he hurts you, and again, that's not always the best of looks. In the Kelvin Davis fight, he did look like he was doing that quite a bit as well, and he can be throwing himself from too far out and just completely missing, so I feel like Davis will have the more superior footwork to be able to get out the way of that, because of the fact that, like I say, he'll be just flinging himself from way too far out, and it'll become quite obvious if he is doing that as well. And so who do I think is going to win this fight? I think that Keyshawn Davis is going to be able to win via a TKO in round 6. I think it is going to be a pretty comfortable performance for Keyshawn Davis to be able to just keep throwing and have a lot of success. I wouldn't want to see him trading too much, but again, I feel like he can really bait Albright by just taking the small steps back and then just chopping away with shots that way, and I feel like that could be very punishing. Again, keeping a distance might not necessarily be the best thing against Albright, but again, you can't let Albright dictate the fight. I don't think he will. I feel like Keyshawn Davis, like I mentioned, will be now the stronger fighter in there than maybe what he once was in the first fight, and he'll show that as well, and I think he will actually hurt and damage and stop Nahir Albright and be able to get him out of there and kind of right away any kind of controversy that was left between the two of these. Again, if it was a fair world, Nahir Albright would win because Keyshawn Davis pulled up on him when he really shouldn't have, but obviously this is boxing. Skill means more than anything, and I think the skill of Keyshawn Davis is just a level above Nahir Albright. Again, it's a matchup in which I didn't really need to see happen. Obviously, you can, of course, make the argument of unfinished business. That's what Top Rank is doing, trying to sell this fight, but again, like I mentioned, I think Keyshawn Davis is just a level above, and he's a very skillful fighter, Keyshawn. I think he has got a real good career in him, and I think there's a real opportunity next to see him in a title fight. I think it is going to be down the IBF route. Obviously, Shakur Stevenson and Keyshawn are very close friends. Shakur is WBC champion and Keyshawn is mandatory for the WBC. It's rare to see the mandatory fighter not actually want to fight the champion, but that means that even if we get Keyshawn Davis as a champion, he probably won't want to then go and try and unify against Shakur Stevenson. So I don't know if we ever would see that fight. It would be an exciting fight, but I don't think we ever would see it. So I feel like I say, the most expected option would be him go down that IBF route, fight a Duarte or a Delgado. I don't even know what's happening with Delgado at the moment, but he's still ranked really well with the IBF, which is a bit random. Obviously, Duarte was meant to get a shot at the IBF title to face Hitchens. Obviously, that fell through. Hitchens, of course, now went to Zuffa instead, so and imagine, like I say, it will make sense for Duarte to fight Davis. Obviously, Davis would still be with Top Rank, and Top Rank working with with Golden Boy would be interesting to see if they'd be willing to do that. But they are both on DAZN, so maybe something can be sorted out there for that to happen. I think they have worked together quite a few times, to be fair, but still, I'd imagine that would happen. It wouldn't surprise me, though, if Keyshawn does move up at some point. So if the IBF route doesn't happen, he could end up moving up next. And I feel like he's kind of flirted with the idea of him moving up to welterweight. I think he's going to try and go the route of being like a free-weight world champion where he wins one belt in each, not necessarily is able to defend it, but is like, say, moving through the divisions. And I feel like welterweight would be a tough division to win a world championship right now, so I think it makes sense for him to stay at super lightweight. He could win a world title at welterweight, but I still feel like for the moment super lightweight makes sense. But if he is going to win a title at super lightweight, I would like to see him defend it before he moves up to welterweight. But again, it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't, and he does try and contest for it next and then move up to welterweight after. But of course, we will have to wait and see. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did indeed like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.